Oh, we started with
No,
Law and Order.
That's how we start with Law and Order.
Oh, we're live?
Are we live?
We're so
Are
live.
you alive? I'm
What
alive.
is life?
Coming to you live
Life-
from the future.
Live from
Life
the future.
is what you do when you avoid dying.
Podcast.
Hey, this is live from the future, actually.
Welcome
Anyway.
to Artisan Depth.
Oh, that's like,
Through the magic of the internet.
you know what's funny? I think that's the first time that's actually been said on microphone. Congratulations, Nick.
I'm sorry to steal that
Ooh,
from you.
no, let's all have a round of applause for Nick.
Hey. Finger snap.
Yeah, slow clap never works. Never use slow clap for anything. All right, we got Brandon Walker. I just learned what his last name was today.
Yeah. AKA.
AKA Moonwalker Collage.
That's right. At
Yes.
Moonwalker Collage.
At Moonwalker Collage.
on Instagram.
Instagram, back pages, wherever you want to go find
The very back.
this man.
Where you'll find me cutting
You
pages.
can find him everywhere. Yeah, Brandon Walker is a collage artist, which I didn't know, which is awesome. It actually inspired me to do some collages because these are effing dope. Is this like a drawing or is this all collages? Did
These
you pencil
are
this?
actual original collages here. So this is these are prints from. So this is from a these particular ones right here. This piece of art, which is on my Instagram under
We'll pass it around for everybody. so they can
some
see it.
damn name. It's done in. It's a 1563 engraving.
What does that mean?
That means that this image was originally created in the year 1563.
Oh, geez.
Yeah, it was a Spanish guy who observed these Native Americans hunting alligators. So they used like this pole, a giant wooden sharpened stick to jam in their mouths and get up in their guts and, kill them. And then these other ones are beating this other alligator with, clubs and shooting it with bows and arrows and stuff.
Oh,
And-
oh man, that's sick, dude.
And
I didn't even look at it. Y'all check that out? Y'all pass it down over to them.
oops.
People that can't see it, it's looks like some natives battling an alligator with like, is that Saturn on the horizon?
It looks like I named it War Against Beasts.
War
because
against beasts.
I really wish that
my-
y'all could all see this, everyone listening, because it is pretty cool. There's one alligator that's upside down, and they're just like beating it with spears and clubs. And I really get a feel for how savage this was.
Yes.
And I don't use that term,
We understand you don't use this.
That's part of the reason. So all I did here, I try to respect the original images that I'm cutting from. As you can see, it's really tiny. It took me a long time to cut those guys out.
Yeah.
And both of these images, I didn't change any of their size or anything like that. The Saturn, that was from a book from these are both from books from the 50s. The actual printings of it, one of them's from the Saturn that you see in there. Image is from 1966.
Oh, sick.
And Saturn is also kind of another word for Satan and other different types of things like that. Saturn has a ton of symbolism, and a lot of it has to do with violent shit, and they're doing some violent stuff, and I felt like it fit perfectly, not only visually, but, like they're doing this under the influence of this thing, and, man has always been in a constant war with beast or other men as beast. For our own safety and survival, it's like we're doing it for peace, but yet, in order to get that peace,
There has to be the violence, the dirt.
The violence, yeah.
The dirt.
You have to jam a 13-foot-long pole into an alligator so it doesn't go and snatch away your family later.
I want to hear more about your process. You said you cut it. Is that using an actual X-Acto knife on
Yeah.
an image that you've printed, or
No.
that
So
you found?
all these are found images. I don't print from my computer or Google Images or anything like that. I want to use original images from
Just
books,
raw.
magazines. I really prefer using books. I started with magazines, but the content in books is you just find some amazing stuff. Like I gotta stop saying so much. So this one was from a book in 1955 about Native Americans, and there's only probably like 15 pages of images out of like 300 pages. So it's stuff that a lot of people wouldn't normally see, and there's a lot of images that just get hidden in time and hidden in books that a lot of people wouldn't see. So I'm trying to bring those up, but I'm trying to bring them up in a way that brings another idea to them or another story to them, and it makes them feel more important. So the original background with these guys killing these alligators was just kind of a typical landscape, and I was like, this is so epic, it needs something epic behind it. And I found this Saturn which fit perfectly, like the cutting of it
So
is the exact.
is that a drawing of Saturn, or is that like a picture?
It was also probably someone did some sort of woodcut engraving with it, is my
sweet.
guess, or they did a linoleum engraving and printed it into the book like that.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Nice.
I bet you get a lot of inspiration from old textbooks as well.
Definitely, that was one of the first, probably the first collage where I was like, oh, I got something here, something interesting. Actually, I'll just show you it's on my Instagram. I think it's the first one I posted.
For everyone
that was
who
kind of the idea.
For everyone who is just tuning in, it's Moonwalker Collage for his Instagram.
Moonwalker. Oh, actually, before we dive super deep into that, how about you guys introduce yourselves a little bit? I skipped over that. I apologize.
Yeah,
we do have special guest hosts in here this afternoon.
All right. Well, I'm Nick English, and
Hi, I'm Dylan Nasor.
Yes, that is our weatherman.
The
Yeah,
Weatherman.
yeah, we're gonna cut to that in a little bit, but y'all stay tuned for that.
So this one was just very simple. With I had textbooks, and I saw this Earth, and I had this Playboy magazine. I thought the scene was very cool, but it's just a pool. Again, I think it needed something more epic, and I'm really into sci-fi. A lot of these things have sci-fi implications to them. So in my head, whenever I was creating that, it was like the Earth was this 3D holographic projection at this futuristic party. Is how I'm looking at it.
Man,
Now,
the
people could
perspective
have
in that's crazy, man.
and people could have all kinds of ideas of what they think it is. I do like that it's very open to interpretation. So a lot of these are simple juxtapositions, but I get into a lot of different types of stuff. I don't know if you saw. This was also from a textbook. This one here, the sun, the tiger here.
I like
from
that.
a really old
That looks
textbook.
really cool.
Yeah, that's rad, man.
The title of that one is Tiger Sun. Very creative title. As
Tiger
you can tell.
Sun. That's when
Tiger
you-
Sun. There's a tiger.
Oh, Tiger Sun.
And inside his mouth was an image of the sun from some book from Time Life from the 60s. And he just had this rage and this fire inside him, and I wanted to express that and capture that in a different way. So that's why I cut out around his mouth and had the fire inside. And then this other lightning and gases was from a sci-fi image that I had cut out something, which you might be able to see the back of it. Yeah, that's the other reason I brought these. So you can see the back of these. Whenever I frame these, you get to see the back of the process. So, so here,
Oh wow!
you see this cutout back there? That was a space station that I used for another collage.
Nice.
So I reused the background to put in with this. And this tiger with the sun had just been sitting up on my shelf for like a year and a half, and I hadn't figured out how to complete it. And I had cut this circle out because there was a piece here I wanted to use for something else, and then I found this piece just lying around. I'm like, oh, it just works out perfectly. So a lot of these just happen to do with what's that word? Serendipity.
Oh, okay.
A lot of it relies on just fate
You know,
of them coming together.
For sure.
man, this one I've been looking at. It's got a guy skating a pool, and it's got it looks like the Milky Way behind him, and the galaxy behind him, and all his homies are sitting around the pool. But there, it's like a triceratops chilling behind the bushes. That's just in on the sesh. It's like, yeah, man, we got our homie over here.
Oh yeah, yeah, he's definitely got to be in there.
Dude, it's rad.
Yeah, be very careful with that one because that's going to be in the show.
Yeah.
I didn't.
that.
Cool.
Yes, it's not all glued. It's all.
Yeah, and actually, I don't use glue for any of my collages.
Do you tape or? How do you...
Yeah, I started with not using anything at all, and then I realized I was going to need to
Affix
use some
it somehow,
adhesive.
yeah.
So what I had been doing, so now I do a mix of what I originally started with, which is like kind of fitting things into each other.
Yeah.
So this Triceratops is actually, there's cuts in here, and I put his legs inside of it, so he's like snug
Oh, sweet.
inside of it. And same thing with with this here. There's actually, you can still move it.
Well, since it's not like glued to it, it adds that extra shadow behind it.
Yeah, it gives some depth to the layer.
Yeah.
It definitely makes it more of like a 3D image.
I try to use non-acidic tapes.
And what's the purpose behind that? Does it just change the image at all, or?
Yeah, I'm worried about, I don't know what the length of time is going to be with this on if I used a regular tape. Even this kind of tape, I'm not sure what's going to happen if the tape is going to show up through it later, through the image.
The paper can soak that stuff up over time.
Yeah, so I try to think about that on the placement, on where I put my tapes too, and even try to make sometimes the tape look artistic in the way that I like tear it in a way that feels very fluid instead of like a square piece of tape.
Right
Sick.
On the back.
Right on.
That's rad, man. I've never seen these up close. The one I first saw, I think, was like, it had like the Amazonian warrior and then like the tiger. I can't think. It's the one. It's like the chick and the tiger.
Oh, yeah. That's
Yeah, but that was
recent
like-
one, the tiger with the horns.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Not like a warrior. It's like a dancer.
Well,
but
yeah,
but,
no,
but
I mean,
it's got
kind of,
what's
yeah.
that? Is that Seattle? What is that?
It's San Francisco.
San Francisco.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know my cities.
Yeah, you're on the right coast.
I'm in Texas. I'm in my own country.
You're on the right area. So this is kind of like inspired by those like John Carter of Mars book covers.
Man, why
sci-fi.
couldn't have tigers evolved with horns? I think
Right?
tigers are
That'd
so
be
much
cool.
cooler with
How
horns.
fucking cool. You know
Yeah.
why? Because they didn't need to.
Yeah, because they don't
Or that's my guess at least.
Yeah, they grew horns in their mouth.
But how much cooler do they look with horns?
Yeah, dude, that's rad, man. I definitely like the planetary theme of a lot of them, man. That's rad.
Yeah. And also, tied in with the names, which is a name my fiance had given me. She called me Moonwalker because it was at night and I was up or something. I was like, oh damn, that's a
Nice.
perfect name for this.
I dig it.
That is
I dig
perfect,
it.
yeah.
Because half of my shit has to do with space themed stuff.
Yeah.
Thank you, fiance. That is my brand forever now.
Exactly. Yeah.
Where else do you get like your inspiration from? Like you said, space, magazines, old books, encyclopedias. Where else?
Well, the reason why I even do it or why I started doing it, I'd been doing collages since I was a kid, just like on my binder and stuff like that. So I just about taking stuff that I like and slapping it together. I'd never got so intricate with it though until recently, because my mom forced me to take a bunch of old magazines that I had because I just hoard them, and she's like, "I'm not storing these for you anymore." So I took them. And some of them had cutouts in them, and that on Instagram I had seen people do collages that I really liked, and I was like, I could do that with my stuff. And I had an old set of X-Acto knives, and just started going with it. And my inspiration is kind of just unique from piece to piece or series to series. Basically, I'm looking in books and I see all these incredible images, and I'm like, I want to use. I'll find one image. And I want to do something with that. And then I'll find another image, I want to do something with that. And then a lot of times those 2 images or 3 images will come together. So that's kind of like
You kind of keep like a pool. You can keep a pool of pages you
Definitely.
like save, and
I have like kind of a mess of collages on a board. I have pieces that I cut out and haven't done anything with.
So that's really I wouldn't have ever guessed that. My go-to when I paint or whenever I do anything artistic is I have an image in mind beforehand. So it's really cool to see your process is totally freeform, and it's like, oh, this would be perfect for insert project here.
Yeah. And sometimes I don't know what it's going to be or how it's going to turn out. Sometimes I do have an idea of what I'm going to do. In fact, I can give you guys a sneak peek of something that I haven't shown publicly yet. It's
new shit.
It's a series.
New shit.
And in this series, it's something that is I thought about beforehand. And so one of those things is, as a kid, I was always fascinated with those future outer world colonies. And you'd see people just like chilling and doing normal stuff, but they'd be in this like ring world kind of thing. And I'm like, that's really cool. And then I got this idea of putting these skateboarders on, because I was, as you can see, I like using
much
dynamic
appreciated.
images.
Shout out to skate community. Shout out to the skate community.
Since I don't particularly skate myself, I've shot photography of skateboarders and stuff like that. I like being involved in that stuff.
And man, that's just as good as skating, bro. If you're out there shooting everybody, man, that's
It's fun,
just as
man.
valuable, man.
It's fun to shoot skateboarders because it's movement and it's challenging.
Taken out of context, just bang bang.
Oh yeah, lots of bang bang.
Just being a photographer gets people into things. I mean, like, I got friends that are photographers that just like showed up like, I'm here to take pictures of the event, and then they get let in.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Because especially if you dress nice, you got a nice setup, and then You go in there, you got a nice camera around your neck. They're like, all right, well, he must be here.
Right.
Note to
Please, yeah, make
anybody
us look
who is
good.
poor and wants to go to cool events, just find a camera.
Yeah.
Yeah. Hey,
Yeah.
Drop $300 on a camera instead of $50 a ticket.
I didn't
And
say
then-
buy a camera. I said find a camera.
as a photographer, I got into a lot of free events.
Yeah, no, it's a real.
true.
It's,
Yeah.
This is
it's
one
a
of
real
the, I
thing.
have a whole series
Especially
of these.
if you have any kind of like a press pass.
Yeah, because
If you ever have or could find one, for example.
Repurpose.
Not suggesting this for any of our listeners.
well,
this is
actually-
something that you could do, not
No,
something
he's
you
definitely
should
suggesting
do.
it.
Yeah, no, I definitely am suggesting this. I don't know if that
Oh,
was,
no.
If he's
that was
not, we
missed
are.
over.
yes, we are very behind.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, if you're trying to be at events and you're trying to show up, look up some YouTube videos, become a photographer, go to your pawn shop. You know, the camera didn't even have to work, honestly. If you just want to show up,
Just get your iPhone
that's
and
funny.
exactly, show up with the camera around your neck. It's busted, but they don't know that. You walk in there and just take pictures with your phone, so you leave with something, some proof, and then you're good.
And like as far as a press pass, you can just print one of those out. That doesn't have to be. That doesn't
Like I
have to
said,
be
you
official.
Get a
just gotta
broken
find
camera.
one. You don't have to
get a
have
broken
one.
camera from the pawn shop. They're not going to check to see if it works.
Okay, so it seems to be kind of a common theme that they're skating with things that aren't skateboards.
Yeah.
And I want to
Yeah.
know kind of the symbolism or the motivation behind that.
So the motivation is, I was telling you how I really like these old space stations in Ringworld. So I went and to eBay and tried to find where these images were coming from. They come from these like old NASA design studies that they commissioned to see what it would be like if people were living in these outer world space things. So I'm like, that's cool. So I wanted the biggest image I could get, and then I was bored with just the skateboarding. So I'm like, what would they be actually using at that time period in the far future?
That's
and
pretty
they would
awesome.
probably be having a type of drone board.
Yeah, for sure, man.
And so that's kind of what.
I like it with the jet, and
Yeah,
the
that's
angle.
dope.
Yeah, it's a shout out Kareem Campbell. That's the
Is that the guy on the
skateboarder in the
Oh,
photo?
thank you.
Yeah, shout out.
See, I
Kareem
didn't even
Campbell.
know. I just cut him out. I'm like, oh, this guy looks cool. He's gonna
Hey,
be
man, dude,
perfect.
Hey,
Kareem
he's got
on
that image.
Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 2 or 1. That was like my guy was Kareem Campbell.
Wow.
Oh,
I'll
nice.
tag him on Instagram whenever I
Dude, definitely
post that image.
Definitely tag him on
Y'all help
Instagram.
shout out. Yeah, so I figure in the future they already kind of have like drone mobility things, drone cars, and there sort of is drone boards in a way, but they'll probably get really, really good. And so this one has a jet on it because he's, half in space and
For sure.
in this space colony. I don't know if you can see, but these are like houses and
You know
stuff
what?
down
You know
here.
what that kind of reminds me of? It reminds me of the stylistic choices, draft photos or draft from like 50s, 60s, where it was all hand drawn, hand colored.
Yeah.
It really reminds me of that.
Yeah.
What time period did you say the space station cutouts were
I
from?
believe those are from 1978.
1978.
So he's the most recent printing on here. I'm
That's rad.
always kind of conscious of the different years and time periods that it was printed on, and I think about someone actually having read these magazines or these
Yeah, that's
books
pretty cool.
and flipped through, and this consciousness applied to, and just the consciousness of someone, the act of creating the original image and then doing the mass copying and
Yeah.
printing it out.
Yeah.
You get into all that
That's
that
a really,
nerdy stuff.
That's a really cool, like almost unconscious connection you made with the futuristic skateboarding and how the images were originally concepts or something that could happen a long, long time in the
Yeah.
future. It really meshes well with kind of the underground sport and the underground lifestyle of skateboarding when it was starting in the 80s and the 90s.
Yeah, I can see that. I see
Yeah.
that.
Well, it was the new age, because in the like in the 70s, like late 60s, 70s, whenever it started getting like a public eye, everybody was skating the real small decks and.
Yeah, as you can see with this guy here.
And
this
then
is from the 70s.
and then the 80s, 70s, the decks kept getting a little bigger and bigger, and then you got people like Rodney Mullen coming around throwing the kick flip or magic flip is what it was at the time, and he was the first one because people were doing hand flips, they were doing handstands and flipping it,
Yeah.
they were popping it out and flipping it in their hand, they're doing spins. But he was the first one to really he just flipped it and landed on it with just his feet. Like everybody's like, he started busting that out at, then
like he's not flipping with the board, he's flipping or he's not flipping on the board, he's flipping with the board.
Yeah, and then he started and then shove-its were a trick, where you just shove it around, but he started combining this flip with the shove-its, and that turned into like 360 flips and like all these extra heel flips, like all these flips. and he was really the one that was just a heavy hitter at those shows.
Yeah,
I'm
usually pretty good right up until it yells out "Bop-it," and I'm on like the third round. It's really difficult to get.
Yeah, but actually
spin it.
Hey, do you know how Bop-it got made? Do you know
no
the
idea.
story of how that got made?
Enlighten me.
So it started out as the guy wanted to create a universal TV remote.
Oh my god!
But he was doing it in the shape of like sports objects. So
Really?
he had one that was in the shape of like a football, for the football fan, and he had
Quote unquote sports objects.
Yeah, he had like a circle remote,
Oh my god!
Yeah, and then he was but he kept taking it, and like everybody was pitching it to, they're like, this is terrible. This is
Yeah.
awful. And then he had it, and he was kind of he was just done with it. But then his kid was playing with it,
Of course.
because it made noises. So it had like different noises. Yeah, but his kid was playing with it and saw that he was doing that, and then over time it just evolved into
Wait a minute. Who are these remotes for? I am so confused right
the
now.
football fan. Like the football fan in the '80s. That wants to have a universal remote and say
I
touchdown.
do the touchdown too.
Yeah,
Do you think that ever would have worked in
Have you
today's
ever been
world?
to
in today's world, I wouldn't be surprised.
Like if he came out with that today, do you think people would have bought it?
Dude, honestly, bro, if you came out today with a universal remote, because it has like
No, I mean with a
screens.
Bop-it.
With a Bop-it.
Yeah.
like a brand new Bop-it.
Yeah, like if Bop-it was never created in the 90s
And then he made a Bop-it
and
right
he
now.
made it right now, do you think it would sell?
I don't think so.
If you could get on Instagram from your Bop-it, probably. Like it's an iPhone watch, Bop-it watch.
I
pay
honestly
Instagram
think that it
model.
would succeed really, really well as like a very, very shitty fitness device.
Hey, there you go. like a shake weight.
Yeah, it's like a shake
Yes.
weight, or it's like those little bars that have weights on the end that you're supposed to shake up and down.
Yeah.
To be fit.
Yeah, you just
add some weight to it and then bop it. You can make anything look like exercise.
yeah, or maybe a football remote that your kids can play catch with during the halftime show. Like, double purpose. You can air it up.
You'd be afraid they're going to change the channel. You need some locking switch on it.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, you're
you
setting
change it.
yourself up for an additional purchase because they're going to break that immediately.
Oh yeah, exactly. Well, it's gonna be better than it's gonna be like the Wii. It'll come with a little.
Yeah.
Well, actually, no. If you're throwing it back and forth, this is
I
terrible.
mean, the
idea.
Bop-It's made out of that good 90s plastic, that'll last for 800 years.
Yes,
It's going to be all right.
Yes,
True.
the-
Unlike my collages,
the fruits
which-
of the landfill.
which won't last, 800 years, maybe 500, depending on how they go.
You never know. You could just encase it in carbonite and call it.
Yes.
a day.
I like that idea.
Just
I was
flat-
thinking
flash
about
freeze it.
resin. See, the problem, you have photo degradation. So these images are pretty nice and saturated when they're inside the book.
Yeah.
But if they are exposed to light for too long, then they will start fading. And I've been looking of ways to try to
So resin doesn't
fix
help
that.
with that, or
I don't think it does. I think the light can still get, because the light is literally going through the resin. It's still hitting.
What about
those
like
molecules.
a polarized material or something
I don't know.
like that? Something that'll block the UV
that's an
rays from
idea.
degrading the ink.
I'll write that down.
So I do want to dive into
Yeah.
more of your something I was interested in
Yeah, yeah.
because I saw you do it. So tell me about this lizard you rescued, man.
Oh wow! You saw, that.
I
lizard.
don't know if y'all heard about this, but he rescued a lizard. He found a lizard on a glue trap, and
Yeah.
he was flat on his back, like skin, and then like over time he kind of pried him away from it and slowly got the glue off his skin. And do you still have him?
It's
Or
funny
just set him
how
free?
that. No, I set him free, but it's funny how that relates to the collaging.
Okay,
Because
perfect.
after I found him in the glue trap, that's the Instagram story.
It's like the whole story of it.
This dude was, later you'll see an image of him like stuck like that. Like he was messed up. I saved one mouse. I've attempted two, and I had to be extra careful because you can put their nose in the glue trap. That's what I accidentally did with one of the mice and suffocated him.
Oh,
And I
no.
felt really bad. After I saved one, and I felt really confident about doing the second one. And so with this guy, I got even more careful because he's so tiny and he was even more stuck in all the glue. How it relates to the collages is I took him home and used all my collage tools and my collage workspace to undo him from the glue trap. And it's kind of ironic because I don't use glue in any of my collages, and I used all my tools to
Get all
him
covered in
to
glue
glue
and
something.
out of the glue. So all of this right here is actually on my collage workspace, cleaning him off very slowly.
I'm gonna start calling you Eddie Izzard because you are the lizard wizard.
The lizard wizard.
Yeah, look, man, check it out. He's like walking, bro. I almost brought a tear to my eye. I saw that lizard start walking. I was like, "Are you kidding me, man?"
Yeah, he was still very sticky at that point. Like you could touch him and he'd come up with your hand. So I was like, I couldn't release him yet. So I had him for about 24 hours and released him nearby where.
We just like get him with some alcohol or.
I did. What did I use? I used a little bit of vegetable oil and water.
Yeah, but it's like alcohol probably go.
Yeah,
do they do anything like breathing, respiratory with their skin?
I'm not sure. That's why I was worried about the oil too.
Yeah, they have a cutaneous respiration. Means they breathe through their skin.
Oh.
I saw people on YouTube rescuing much larger geckos with oil, so I felt safe doing it, but I had to still be careful. Where's there he is. So that's how I found him.
Yeah, he was stuck like Chuck, bro.
In fact, he was there. We found out for a week and a half like that.
He got lucky.
Yeah, and my boss, when we were about to leave, I think for the weekend, she was just like, "Oh, look at this little gecko and stuff." And she's like, "Oh, he's dead." And I was like, "Is he?" I was like, "I'm gonna go poke him." I poked him, and he started moving. I'm like, "Oh shit, I'm gonna get this guy."
Man, he sprung into action. Is what that was. He goes, "I'm about to save this thing right now."
Yeah, I spent a whole night. Yeah, and then he didn't want to go that night. I took him to the bar with me. I took him to that Kink Shame show. At Bruce Brothers. He was there.
Wait a minute. Let's go back to that. What?
I took him to the bar with me.
It's a band called Kink Shame.
Oh,
gotcha.
It's not a show where they were kink shaming people. That'd be
pretty hilarious. Actually, I would pay good money for that.
Yeah,
to just
especially
watch someone be humiliated.
Well, aren't you an asshole?
That would be hilarious. It's like insult gladiators.
You're just digging.
I just want to know where the gecko comes into this. You know, kink shaming with a gecko. I mean, gerbils are popular, but geckos.
Yeah,
no one's tried. Who's tried that? Who's tried that?
Anybody tried a gecko? I was like, it's like, I mean, you would think they'd go with a snake. You feel like the snake would be the one,
right? How come people haven't? Probably because of the fangs. I'm guessing
that is definitely a thing.
But gerbils, I don't know if you've been bitten.
I believe it.
Oh, it is a thing.
With snakes?
Yeah, so there's this whole thing called snake massages, where they just get
my guy's got the scoop on
big
this
ass pythons, and you lay down and they crawl all over you to massage you. And one of the jokes that they make is like, well, as long as they don't go anywhere they're not supposed to, and then the massage therapist will look at them and
I feel like this is one of the advertisements that comes up when you're looking at like really fucked up porn or hentai or something. It's like the little sidebar advertisement with snake massages.
Hashtag snake massage.
This is how you find this type of shit.
It's got Dylan holding a snake with his thumb up.
Just huh?
He's like, hey, he's like, give it a shot. Don't knock it till you try it, guys.
Right.
It's like you should try anything twice because the first time you don't know what you're doing.
Okay. What was that? What was that? I don't know if anybody's seen Clerks 2, the movie.
Oh, yeah.
Whenever he's with the donkey.
Yeah.
He's like, hey, it's not bestiality. It's interspecies erotica.
This got good.
This is our sexual.
Eat your heart out,
podcast.
Joe Rogan.
Yeah.
Eat your heart out.
Hey man, we're coming for Joe.
So to talk about something non-sexual and stuff, something I wanted to mention.
Yes, we're gonna go back to the arts
about these collages, which is kind of interesting.
Yes,
is I'll take a little simple one like this. The most fascinating thing to me is that this exact collage, could have been made 50 years ago, by anybody. Someone could have taken these two images that were existing at that time and cut them out and made this exact image.
Well, so it's just like
years ago.
It's like a regular.
So it's like it didn't come together till now, but it could have come together at any point in time.
I like how you phrase that. That's also a pretty important thing that philosophers talk about. How there are things that have existed and ideas that have existed for ages, and no one's just thought to put them together.
Yes, definitely. Totally.
I think
maybe someone has and it got lost. Yeah.
Maybe. That'd be kind of funny.
Yeah. But what were you?
I think that's really indicative of your process too. Just from everything that you've described, you don't railroad anything. Everything is a sandbox. It's a really holistic process of just ideas and images coming together.
Yeah.
And as kind of the outside perspective, not being an artsy person at all, except for writing, that's generally how very good novels, very good stories come together. Is you don't try to force anything. You just collect.
Just flows out.
Thoughts. You collect images like you do, and then you just put them together.
I think that's why I really like with the surfing subject matter and the skateboarding subject matter too, because it's kind of all about going with the flow, and the art is
because
moving with
you have
it.
to, yeah.
but using the skills and stuff that you have in order to move with it in these dynamic ways. So this is probably very representative image of that.
I love that pattern too, man. I do patterns like that like
Nice.
all the time, man. Those are sick.
That pattern. So it's from two pieces of art. The stripes are from an artist named Bridget Riley from the '60s optical illusion art movement, and then the other inner image is from a Mark Rothko painting, which you've probably heard of, the Rothko Chapel over here.
Yeah.
And then you have, I don't know who the surfer is, but obviously he's sponsored by O'Neill surfboards because he's got O'Neill written on him. And then, of course, you have space and stuff coming through. So this one was actually very interesting in how I got them all to fit together. So he's actually slid into that other painting. So there's like cuts and multiple layers that are happening in order to get things to slide into each other. Everything can sit there without having to be glued. But then I just tape it at the end just to secure it. But
That's awesome. And this is one of the pieces that'll be at the Proletariat,
yes,
right?
yes. This is if this podcast is happening right now, then this will be at the show right now.
Be at the show. Starts on
Maybe
the 19th.
even sold. Who knows? But you'll be able to see it for 6 weeks. And I actually make prints of nearly all my pieces, and that's what I started doing a few months ago. So
Where should people contact you to get some of these prints?
just
possibly?
Moonwalker Collage, or you could come to the Proletariat, and we'll have the stuff there right now.
Proletariat
until March
Galveston.
2nd. It'll be there. Be doing other places. I've also been going to Avant Garden. That's where I'd been selling work the past three times.
Shout out Avant. That's one of my
Yeah,
favorite
Avant
places in the
Garden.
world, right there.
Yeah, a friend of mine named Chris Kuntz. I was doing a photographing a To Whom It May show at the Scout Bar. They're
Nice,
opening, to
nice.
get in for free, like we talked about.
Yeah, full circle. That's how you get in.
And I showed her my collages, and she's like, "Oh, you put this anywhere?" I'm like, "No, I've just been doing it for myself. It's just like kind of escapism for myself." And she's like, "Oh, you should try selling it at this art market." I'm like, "Yeah, I'll give it a shot," And I did it.
Which Avant art market do you go to?
It's the La Sopa art market.
Is that
and-
monthly?
Yes, it's monthly. It's like the last Friday of every month, I believe. And it's a pretty cool show. They do different stuff. Like the first one I did, it was body art. And I have a lot of images with naked women from old Playboys and stuff because they look more natural.
It was more a natural form of photography and art at that point.
Yeah, all of that.
Nowadays, man, it's all digital, doctored up. It's not even really how the
I mean, it was
actual
also a
person
more
looks.
natural person before they had access to all kinds of stuff.
Definitely. And I really appreciate the more natural look just because it's more universal. Like it's...
I mean, just a natural look for everything. I like
Yeah.
how you're using the older issues of magazines and things. It's becoming a lost thing, man.
So this is the most popular. This is really bad. I have better images, but this is a horrible image of. I have this print. I've probably sold like 30 of those prints. It's my most popular image that I've sold, and it's so simple.
Really cool.
Yeah, I would actually love to buy this.
Oh well,
Well,
I mean, I can help you out with that.
Bingo, bango.
I should have brought some with me. I'm a horrible salesman.
which who is that?
So this girl is from a magazine called Evergreen Magazine, which is kind of a countercultural magazine from the '60s, and she was just
Was it kind of like a kind of for the scene, like kind of Woodstock scene? Or?
yeah, definitely that sort of scene. So she's naked, in the same way that they were shooting them in Playboy, but in these magazines, they'd either have no naked women or they'd have a few pages of it. And so she was just on one of the pages.
So it was kind of like a magazine for like free-spirited,
Yeah.
freed.
There's like poetry of all the different beat poets and all these different kinds of people.
Nice, that's pretty cool.
And I wish I could start naming names, but I'm not that cool to do that. I just really liked how she looked and made that image, and it surprises me which ones people really latch onto and like the best. And this is actually the same girl here, and that piece is a lot more complex. There's 1, 2,
Man, dude, the layering on those
3,
collages is
4.
crazy, man.
Yeah, I would definitely buy this as
like
well.
like the
there's like
just
6 or 7 layers there.
just the depth of it, man, is crazy, dude. That's
Some
awesome.
are just real simple juxtapositions,
Yeah.
just 2 layers like this, and then some I get whatever the image needs to feel complete. Really is where I.
Well, because usually, when I thought of like just the regular, what most people think about collages is you just slap a bunch of shit together, or you're making a ransom note, or
Yeah,
whatever.
totally, dude.
But I like
The Riddler.
But I like the way you're doing your collages because you play with the perspectives the actual pictures were taken from. And I feel like that's something just as a photographer you just have an eye for.
Yeah,
and
yeah,
so it's cool because you can just. Because since you're a little familiar with those angles and you know what would look good in that angle, and then you see, especially if you keep like a bank of pictures and you're like, this would be cool here, and you're like, oh man, this swimming pool, that earth would fit right in there.
Oh, yeah.
It'd look crazy, and then you do it, and you're just like explode your own mind,
Totally,
if you've ever done
man.
that before.
Totally.
So, but yeah, I mean that's really cool, man.
I think the composition is what I'm the most of a stickler for. That's kind of what I care about the most is getting out. Honestly, I probably spend most of the time just making sure it's in the right spot, micrometer, of micromillimeter of how it's going to be. I'm very, very specific and particular with that to the point to where it upsets me. Whenever I made these things, I was just making them for myself and didn't have to put them in frames and have them set or anything like that. I'd just take the picture after I finished it, and then they'd just be loose pieces just sitting in a box.
That is very like Tibetan monk ish. with their sand sculptures. I don't know if anyone's heard that.
Oh yes,
Yeah.
Enlighten us.
Yeah, I think it was in the mid to late 90s. A group of Tibetan monks started coming to New York City, and they would make these sand paintings using colored sand, and they'd layer up, and it would take hours and hours, sometimes days.
Ew.
And then at the end, they'd throw it into the river.
Wow. Yeah, that's a little more extreme than what I would do. But I feel like graffiti artists, kind of do that too. They have this idea that it's going to be gone. It's temporal art.
Well, that's what's cool. And that's another reason why I can respect the guys that are so quick with the. They're so quick with they make the stencils, and they'll make like 4 different stencils, for the same image, but it's like the different colorways and the different set, and they just but they can just go. They keep a bag with all the stencils and a bag of paint, and they go through and just slap these things up and just.
I like
Insane
it.
talent.
I like it.
Dude, it's crazy, and it happens really fast. And then also really cool art. Speaking of space art, those guys that can take like bits of magazines and newspapers and do like the quick spray painting
just
and
now as well.
Have you seen those?
No.
Dude, these guys.
Jamie, bring up the video.
Oh yeah. Hey, Jamie, bring up the video.
Jamie, can you Google that?
Yeah, actually, I can.
To move back to the image real quick, all of the images where you have people in them are actually really evocative. I really enjoy that.
Oh, thank you. Thank you.
I'm a fitness professional.
What is it that which people subject matter is the ones that interest you the most?
Particularly nude people for a whole bunch of reasons. But
of course,
it's really not it's not an art medium that is explored as often as I think maybe it should be, and it's especially not an art medium that is explored with people from the past.
Yeah.
So
definitely.
I think it's really, really interesting that you have photos of people from quite a while ago, because that's how people look, you know? Mm-hmm. And there was no opportunity for doctoring. There was no opportunity for like plastic surgery and a lot of other stuff. It just wasn't around then.
Absolutely. There's no body Photoshop, surgery is, I guess, what I'm referring to there.
Yeah. And, dealing with people in the fitness industry, I constantly have to combat unrealistic body expectations, both with men and women, just anybody. So it's something that I deal with on a daily basis. And it was like, look, people were beautiful a long time ago.
Yeah.
Without any modifications. Yeah. And so
even
you can be just
with
as
their
beautiful
hair
now.
and with their, which is this image that I was showing you guys. There is kind of that whole idea. This is a very natural woman here, and granted, not every girl will look like that, but every girl can look beautiful in her own different way, just like every guy can or whoever. You can see she still has her hair down there, but
and that's more so the point.
It says it's the real, it's the Coca-Cola advertisement from the same era. But I'm basically commenting on, she's the real, and then also the experimenting of cutting the lines and fitting her through there.
Yeah,
which
that's actually pretty crazy looking. That looks
yeah,
hard.
that was really cool. I did the Coke logo through it. Yeah, man, that's
just simple idea and simple thing that
It turned out beautifully.
Well, thank you.
Well, because I notice a big thing people are doing today is kind of like it's like a fake it to make it thing. Like people, especially through social media, is they'd rather fake like they look like someone they admire. They feel like somebody in the media that's like super pretty or something. They want to look like them. They'd rather just fake the entire environment of it. But that's not who they really are. They're just doing it so they get the likes and the attention. Yeah. And like it goes a lot deeper. It's not just like, I don't know. It's real distant from just like being yourself. And
and you can see people that are themselves who will also get the same amount. There's a guy on Instagram and YouTube and stuff. His name is Big Nick, and he's not big. He's actually very little. He's a little guy with one good eye. Like one of his eyes is like blind, and he's got some condition that makes him short and means he's probably not going to live as long. This guy has just an insane amount of followers. He's got a great attitude about life. He's really, really funny. And it just shows you don't have to be classically one way or another. Granted, those ways can, if you are classically good looking or handsome or pretty or whatever, you're going to be able to go far.
We can't pretend like it doesn't
But in one
exist.
avenue.
There are a lot of visual things that can overcome a bad personality. Not even overcome, but make up for it.
Yeah. Absolutely.
But that does work both ways, right?
Right. I think when you have an awesome personality, there are a lot of things that, for others it might be a detraction, but for you it's not even a factor.
Beauty, I would say, is a spectrum, and physical beauty is probably just the most visible spectrum of beauty.
Oh, for sure.
But you have all these other, colors.
I'll also say it's one of the most subjective. It's so difficult to when somebody walks up to you, and typically in the position that I'm usually in, they're walking up to me because there's something that they don't like about themselves. And it's
you mean if they're saying something negative?
Well, no. I'm a fitness professional. I'm a personal trainer.
Okay. You mean in the context of your
just
job?
in my job. When people are coming up to me, that anytime anybody talks to me about having any type of business relationship with me, it's usually because I don't like this thing about myself, and so I'm coming to change it. I was like, well, that's fantastic, but let's move away from that first. Let's just focus on the progress. Let's focus more on these things you do like about yourself so that you'll be motivated to come in here every day.
Yeah. Yeah, because if you don't see those instant results, maybe you'll just be like,
exactly.
It's not happening. So I've been slowly looking at this thing that Devlin has up on the screen.
Yeah,
this is pretty insane.
Yeah, so that's what we're looking at is the spray paint art, where they basically spray a bunch of colors down. They'll put down the cap of the spray paint bottle, or maybe the lid. And
he's got a city there too.
Yeah. So I'll show you how he did the city. He did the city with some paintbrushes. So like
that's amazing.
So now he has the planets in there, but the texture comes in because he sprays down a lot of colors, and so whenever you cut through it. It just brings them all together, mixes them. But see how he's using a paint scraper to make like the Twin Towers, just like that.
That's
crazy.
Insane.
Yeah, and it's on some it's on some Bob Ross shit. It's the same thing he did, where he's just
happy little Twin Towers.
Well, happy little Twin Towers.
There are no mistakes, just happy
soon.
accidents.
Yeah,
Oh no.
Oh
yeah.
man. Shit.
But the cool thing about Bob Ross, though, man, is what I always talk about is like one of my favorite things he'd say is like, I don't want you to copy me. He's like, your painting should be general to mine, but in the same genre, but it shouldn't look like mine.
Yeah.
It should look like yours. And the reason why he's so good at the painting, because if you get up to his paintings and look up really close, the paintings are a bunch of smudges and scratches, and but it's when you get that perspective far away, because it looks incredibly amazing, because from where the camera's at when they're recording Bob Ross's episodes, it's at like a good distance, so it looks really good. But if you see when they zoom in, you can see all his like brush strokes and messiness of it, but
splotchy.
Yeah, but him being that chill and him just going with the flow is why they're so good. Because
I wonder what that looks like up close. It's probably still pretty detailed.
Yeah, it's cool because especially when you see it from far away for the first time, your mind already has an idea of what it looks like. So even when you get up close, you'll still be able to piece together like what you've already made of it.
Yeah,
but it's really cool how they just slam these things out, man. And there was a guy I used to work with. He also worked at like Fishtails, but when I was at Mario's here, we worked, and like he was a hard guy to train. Like waiting tables. He was just kind of all over the place and didn't really learn things really quick. But I learned a good lesson and like not to judge people, you know, before you see who they really are. And I took him home one day and he's like, "Hey man, you want to come in and see my paintings?" And I was like, you know, I was thinking, you know, he does like some hobby paintings or something.
Yeah.
I go in there, he does this space art, spray paint stuff, and it is amazing. I was blown away. And he's just like, "Yeah, my art's not really nothing," because, you know, he's kind of been in a hard situation for a lot of his life. So, you know, I don't know, man. I was amazed.
Are you going to be bringing him on the?
You know, I haven't seen him since I quit, man. He was like I said, you know, he's in a weird part of his life, man. So, you know, he was
we all get like that.
He was bouncing around here and there. So, you know, you never know where they're gonna end up. But I will ask you though, man. So speaking of that, especially for people like him that may not have the self-esteem they need in their art. Yeah. And especially for someone like you, where you just found this, and this is kind of a thing you started doing.
Yeah, because I do all different types of art, and it's funny that this out of all the different types of art that I've done throughout my life, this has gotten me the best feedback, and it's something that I wasn't actually even trying to put out. It was just something I was just doing for myself, and so I think there's probably a lesson for myself to be learned in there, like, you know, maybe. With other arts, I was trying too hard maybe to please others more than myself. And with this, I'm pleasing myself. And there's a passion inside of it that just comes out. And also, honestly, it helps that I'm using all these incredible images that people have created over time that took, you know, like just the background of this thing right here.
Yeah.
This painting from Vincent de Fate, I think, is who the artist is in the background of this tiger here. It's just, I'm just using it as a simple background. But to create that, this guy took years of his life to be able to get that good to paint like that. Yeah. And then I'm putting it in this piece, you know. It's like it's almost like I'm cheating, you know, with it, but that's where it's like I have to really put time, effort, and passion in this to make it something that's even at that level, because it's
That's right. Well, I have a part of this show, man, where the reason I asked you that is because what would you say to anyone that might be hesitant on what they want to do, or, you know, feel like they can't find the inspiration for it, but they know they have it, but, you know, it's for something like art, a lot of people just automatically assume that they're not artists. You know, I hear that all the time.
Yeah, like you said that.
It's more of a self-identity. You know, a lot of people who don't do art as their occupation don't think of themselves as artists. But when you broaden that definition, right, when you look at
art is very
who
general.
is a creator, then they are therefore an artist if they create something.
Oh yeah,
yeah. Art is a very artist is a very general term, and I think it involves everybody in some kind of way.
You're aware of R. Mutt? I should remember that. R. Mutt is what was written on this urinal. It was a very famous. Type in R. Mutt. Jamie, can you type in R. Mutt?
ARMUT?
Yeah, just like R, the letter R, .MUTT. So there's a very fundamental idea in here. Marcel Duchamp.
Okay, so he's the guy.
So he wrote R. Mutt on a urinal and put it in a gallery in the early 1900s. And it pissed a lot of people off, but
literally.
But the idea that I think that was coming from there is that this mass manufactured product was still molded and created by someone, and likely an industrial designer. So R. Mutt was kind of the signature of this designer that in his head of who created this piece of art. And that's where I feel like a lot of people, that industrial designer might not have seen himself as an artist. And maybe he did, who knows? But a lot of people probably don't see the art that they do in their everyday life that exists all around them.
That's awesome. And I don't know if this is just in my head, but everything we're kind of saying, especially talking about the Bob Ross, and nobody really sees themselves as an artist unless that's their main occupation. It all ties back, for me at least, to the conversation that we were having earlier about how beauty is subjective, you know?
Yeah.
If you zoom in on just one thing, then you might not like it. But if you take it as a holistic being, or especially people, if you take them as a whole, then it's an art piece, right?
Definitely. Even if it's negative, you know? Because art can run the gamut of that too.
Oh, definitely.
Sweet, man. So I
don't know if I answered your question.
No, you did, man. Because you answered it with an example that I think people can relate from, man. Yeah, and that's really cool. So in a little bit,
find your passion, find what you love.
All right, sweet, man. Well, anything in closing? Any closing remarks? Shout out your shows.
I think we shouted all that out enough. I will shout out. Well, this is too late.
Shout out anybody.
Maybe we'll do another one. We're at this point we'd probably have done it. We're doing a workshop after the show, so I'm going to bring a bunch of stacks of magazines, which is kind of what helped me. Shout out to Charles Eddy.
Sweet.
From the band El Lago, who gifted me after a workshop with a bunch of old Life magazines, and that's kind of what put me onto vintage stuff and feeling the history of this stuff, because they were going to throw away a lot of these scraps, and there was a lot of images in there that I saw that I wanted to keep, so I kept all the scraps, and then he gave me some chewed up magazines, and
that's rad.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, that really put me onto the vintage stuff.
Next time I go home, my mom's a bit of a hoarder. We have magazines from forever ago.
Hey,
make it into some art, man.
As many as I can fit in my car for you.
Sweet.
Becky's probably gonna be. I'm gonna have towers of magazines. My fellow photographer at work today, I came back to my desk and there was a huge box of these photographer magazines. I'm like, oh God,
it's funny.
All right, well, Nick, Dillon, Brandon, this was fun, man.
it was definitely fun.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah, anytime.
this was great.
Anytime. We should do this again. Anytime.
Totally.
All right, y'all. Well,
Thanks, Devlin.
yeah, you're
Thanks,
welcome.
guys.
Like, subscribe, comment, positive feedback, y'all, or constructive criticism. We'll take it all. We're artists.
constructive. That's something that doesn't happen enough nowadays.
Yeah, it doesn't.
Constructive criticism.
You know what? Look, if you're gonna troll me with something I can learn from.
Yeah.
Okay, that'd be great. something realistic. I'll
Unless the non-realistic one is funny, then do that too, because that's funny.
yeah, we got imaginations. It don't matter. Do whatever.
That's
right.
the number one thing about art, guys. Use your imagination.
Use your
Can go
imagination.
anywhere.
That's all you can. All right, y'all. Artists.
In the words of SpongeBob. Imagination.
See, now we can't post this episode because you just violated copyright
Hey,
law.
We just got copyright strike.
Well, actually, speaking of artists, all right, R.I.P. Steven Hillenburg, creator of SpongeBob, died 2018. I know it's 2019.
Oh, man.
He's the man.
I
R.I.P.
didn't watch your show, but your legacy lives on.
The legacy
through
lives
memes
on.
and everything else.
Everything else, bro, had a rebirth. All right,
Respect.
Artist and Dev Podcast. Nick, Dillon, Brandon. I'm Devlin. We out. Later, y'all.
Peace.